Hi, this is Michael Levinson. I'm taking this class with Josh Reeves as the instructor for Contemporary Applications, Today's World and the Science of Mind and Spirit. My role in addressing current challenges and societal topics with those whom I minister, consult with, and treat for is the subject of this. I'm excited about this topic of addressing challenges, but first I wanted to explain why I'm doing this video. From a young child and as a student, I've always struggled with undiagnosed learning challenges. Due to a lack of diagnosis, I've always struggled with dyslexia and ADD. And I brought this up in our first class and made this part of my paper. So I decided to follow through and do this as a video rather than just doing it as a paper, which I'll submit as well. I am and have currently been an active member of Creative Life Spiritual Center, which is in Spring, Texas. The Reverend and founding minister is Reverend Jesse Jennings, who mentors me, and I find him to be extremely inspiring. And I think that what's probably the number one inspirational theme is inclusiveness. And inclusiveness for those people that are struggling with identity, racism. Certainly the issue of Black Lives Matter is something that I would like to discuss in terms of this paper. But first I wanted to change my hat because I really like these hats, and I wanted to kind of show off a little bit about them because I think they create like a different theme. So as I mentioned, I wanted to do the relevance of science of mind teaching as they relate to current events and in everyday life. And this includes the professional way of addressing social issues and communications about those views. And we want to improve our spiritual communities and the community in which we live. This is, I think, a vital structural and center column and piece of Centers for Spiritual Living and for Creative Life Center, CLC, which is, of course, my center in Texas. So Black Lives Matter. The statement can and should suggest a rational, compassionate, and obvious position far above the partisan politics of this or any other movement. Black lives clearly must matter more than society's power of structure values them now and certainly historically, not only in terms of an end to murders in the street, but in a sea change of behavior with corporate boardrooms, halls of state where policies are made and where equity is divided up. Creative Life Center, as I mentioned, the one that I'm involved with, has stood for the rights and opportunities for all people in equal measure. And I think that I try to radiate that, and that is very compelling to me. And it's something that you can sense as soon as you walk into the center. But first, let me change my hat. This is, I like this one too. There's a sign that Jesse Jennings recently quoted that says, "We haven't come this far to only come this far." We may not know what to do to end racism and the ideology, but there is something that does know, and that's the spirit within. When we turn to it and listen and then act, that's when the progress starts to happen. Our center has sponsored prayer vigils, several discussion and action groups that are devoted to addressing racism in its various semblances. These are forming within Creative Life Center now. I am proud to be aligned with Centers for Spiritual Living with their national agenda as they call for racism in the United States to end. We are grieving, as you are, who are listening to this, the lives that ought not to have been lost. The names George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery are just a few of the recent, and a list of countless unarmed African American and Black people who have been murdered for the color of their skin over the past 400 years in the U.S. It's a disgrace. Too many generations have suffered, and it has never been acceptable, and it certainly isn't now. We, Centers for Spiritual Living, denounce racism in all its forms. the starkness of unapologetic, intentional racism, the racism of silence, of injustice, the systematic racism inherent in our education, justice, income, and opportunity inequity, and the racism that lies hidden in our individual hearts and minds. The Centers for Spiritual Living envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of the political, corporate, academic, and social sectors. We value a community-wide climate of safety that arises from compassion, justice, mutual respect, and kindness. As Dr. Sean Ginwright, who wrote in the book The Four Pivots that we're studying in our class, he says our real power comes from the courage to deal with our fractured relationships, the vulnerability to acknowledge our hurt feelings, and the awareness to know when our ego shows up. I also join our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, who echoed the words of Dr. Martin Luther King and said, "You and I should form the habit of taking definite time each day to contemplate and affirm peace with justice, for there is no peace possible without justice. But faith without works is dead. We should not only pray, but we should also act, each contributing the best they have to the common purpose, each willing to make any sacrifice necessary, for there can be no individual self-preservation without the preservation of all." And I wanted to show you somebody who means a lot to me. This is Caleb, and we're in Morro Bay. And I love this because there's excitement, energy, and a sense of complete presence that I think is worth a discussion of equality and racism because it's going to rear its head. There was last year, in the year 2022, Dr. Edward Viun did a daily reading from 365 Science of Mind. And he put together a message because he's also, besides being what he was, the spiritual leader, he wanted to make sure people knew that we are responsive. And he wrote, "Centers for Spiritual Living stands with people all around the world who are advocating for justice, equality, inclusion, and peace. We are motivated by our vision of a world that works for everyone, and therefore we affirm with the people of the world that Black lives matter. Not only do Black lives matter, but according to our teaching, they are sacred." But first, let me change hats. I'm going to get another one too because I like this other one, so I can do what my father used to do when he gave speeches, was to make it interesting. We have confidence that the unifying cry of our global heart that Black Lives Matter has struck a note of urgency in all who hear it. And above all, we have confidence that the living Spirit, Almighty, is working through us to bring our state of belief of oneness into form. That oneness in the political, social, judicial, spiritual, and economic realms, and importantly, is where? It's in our hearts. There have been a lot of recent tragedies in Black lives, and the world is still reeling. We've been called to be brave enough to examine how society can be out of step and continues to be out of step as a choice. And I think that is our challenge, and that is my challenge, and that is what I'm speaking to. And I wanted to, I guess, show you another picture here that I love. And that is of Graham and Gemma, twin grandkids that are 4. And she's just gorgeous, and he's just quirky. And my son and Caleb right there. What can we do more than be spiritually magnificent than to say a full-hearted yes to this upwelling of affirmation of the sacredness of Black lives? And I wanted to quote Dr. Ernest Holmes again, who in the Science of Mind magazine in 1958 when he wrote Help for Today. And this is a beautiful affirmation. He says, "Let us therefore light the candle of love, human kindness, forgiveness, and understanding in our soul, and let it shine brightly. Let us not peer into the darkness, troubled and concerned, because it is so foreboding and unknown. Rather, let us remain steadfast in the radiance of that spiritual light of truth within ourselves. Let us stand guard so that the winds of malice, cross purposes, ignorance, or misunderstanding will not blow out the light. Let us so live each day that the light from our candle of spiritual knowledge will forever be clear and understood, not only by ourselves, but all those whom we come in contact." And that is key. So thank you. I hold in my heart the optimism and confidence in sharing love as a sacred principle for all. Again, this is Michael Levinson, a religious science certified practitioner for Centers for Spiritual Living. May 11th, 2023. Blessings to all. Thank you.